Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hi. Why are you looking
No,
at
you
me
were
like
just
this?
making...
I was making little... No, there's a poignant picture of...
Oh, the president with the...
With a grievously wounded veteran from the Afghanistan or Iraq. It said that it was the first time he went, oh my gosh. And there's something, what it said is this, here's the caption, the White House photographer, hi guys, by the way, the White House photographer said this was one of the most poignant moments of the president's first term. He was visiting wounded warriors in the ICU at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan. This is May 1st of this year. He had just presented a Purple Heart to Sergeant Chase Haig, who had been injured just hours before. Sergeant Haig was covered with a blanket, and it was difficult to see how badly he was injured. He was also seemingly unconscious. So the president whispered in his ear, so not to wake him. Just then, there was a rustling under the blanket, and Sergeant Haig, eyes still closed, reached his hand out to shake hands with the president. And that's when the picture is taken. So there's this man, he's completely covered with, and there's a hand, and the president looks like he's about to lose it.
Yeah.
I saw there was another cute picture making the rounds of the president from, it must have been around Halloween. He's in the White House, and this little kid, some staffer's son, dressed as Spider-Man. He had a little Spider-Man costume on. He was about this high, and he'd obviously run into the room that the president was in and gone like this, and Obama is like,
sweet.
reeling against the wall. It was so cute. So, I don't know.
He seems to be a very human man. I mean, whatever one thinks about his politics, one way or the other, but a very human man.
No, he's obviously a good soul, despite the fact that the Republicans think he's,
Yeah. No, but that's really that has nothing to do with it. It's just he's relaxed. The only thing is I see about him that he's relaxed, because even with people like Clinton and that, there was always a sense of him sort of being staged. He was always prepared to make whatever remark.
Really? I thought Clinton was known for being just a regular guy.
No, but I think he always was sort of aware of himself.
He was on.
Yes, on. That's what I was.
He was on.
Whereas this one, I remember that time.
He doesn't care about being on.
I remember that time. He was at some celebrity thing or whatever, and he started singing some blues song. He seems
a little more relaxed in that way. I think, who knows? You might be right. Oh, here's this question. It just was here. I asked this question on the air the other day. Nobody responded. I'm going to ask you. Have you noticed the size of apples?
They've gotten large.
Huge!
Yeah.
Okay, so where you used to grab an apple for a snack, now you look at those big things. They look like watermelons, and you don't want to grab
the
one.
Market District or whatever it was, and it was one of those like Macintosh. No, it wasn't Macintosh. It was one of those kinds of apples.
It was Honeycrisp.
Yes, Honeycrisp.
Those are the biggies now.
Yeah.
They're like
there was this woman and I said, "One could play basketball with that apple." And she said, "Oh, maybe it's a good buy." I said, "But normally when you have a food, whatever it may be, even a goose or something that's so big, the flavor is all out of it because I'm sure it had to be induced by some sort of chemicals.
Or, they've been genetically engineering it or
but
whatever.
Usually, though, when they look good, they don't taste good.
Yeah, but here's what I want to say.
Like
Why?
people.
But, like an apple is something that you don't want to eat a little of it and put it down.
No, because
then it turns brown and unattractive.
Awful.
So you want to eat it in one sitting.
Yes.
And if you were looking, it's 3 in the
Like eating a
afternoon.
pumpkin,
You're feeling.
yes.
I know. So you end up not eating.
Yes.
It at all. I want to.
Well, it's very interesting on that. When I lived in Europe a number of years ago, I just remember that in Italy, where food, they have these open markets every day, and it would be marvelously fresh. But I remember my first reaction when I went looking, they weren't, so pretty, because often they wax apples and that.
Yeah, well, they do.
And there they had little marks on them. And I remember I said to this one Italian greengrocer, "Oh, they look a little," and he said, "You have marks on your face too." But also the fruit was always so tasty and fresh, like just picked, and it wasn't, overstimulated by hormones or whatever. And but just like we don't like meat with fat, we don't like things with bruises. It's just We like plastic. We like Hollywood
Well,
food.
we come from a culture that has absolutely perfected marketing.
Yeah.
And they know what makes you reach for that apple. And if you've got an apple that isn't shiny, that's got marks on it, next to a shiny, beautiful, looks like a platonic ideal of an apple, you go for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Snow White apple.
Yes, right. It's more satisfying on every level.
What's interesting, and I just lost what I was going to say. Wait.
Okay. Does that count? Does that count?
No, that's what was.
Does that count as a loss of
food?
Apple food. Yes, that counts because now you're doing.
Counts.
Yeah, you're doing that.
Oh,
That's
boo.
one.
Okay, it'll come back to me.
Okay, that's
something about food.
That's one senior moment, and we're just 5 minutes in. That's pretty good.
All right.
Okay. Hey, by the way, guys, hello. I was yapping before the show even started, and it's Thursday, December 20th, just to get our bearings. 5 days until Christmas, and Tom Sokolowski is with me, as is his habit on Thursdays. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm getting a pen to mark your. Mark down your senior moment, because if I don't write it down, I'll forget it. Okay?
Has anyone ever called in with a number?
No one's done
that's obviously a boring quiz. We have to offer Pen Mac salami as a
an
present.
incentive, a gift, what do you call it?
Prize.
Thank you. Jeez.
One for you.
Okay. No. If that wasn't as big as when you start trying to retrace your crumbs.
My matrix of brain screw-ups, yes.
Okay, well, I have a few things here that we can start our conversation. Yes.
It's always like when you see Lynn, she sits here and it looks like the bottom of a bird cage with all the rip-ups of newspaper. So the birds, I was told I told you, when I went to this how to have a parrot, because I've always been,
Are you getting
parrots.
Anywhere with that? Are you moving forward?
No, because I just decided, at least in my current living situation, it just would be somewhat untenable. But that because parrots are foraging is their natural want, you have to throw all sorts of crap in the cage to make them forage, and they just love it. Like give them old toilet paper, things and newspaper, and they'll just rip the shit out of it.
But how can they forage in so small a space?
Well, they adapt.
Aww.
Well,
why not let them out of the cage if they're in an
I think you can. Yes. That was part of this training. They said how you coax them in, and then they don't want to go in, so then you say, "Oh, nice bird," and you give it a banana, and then push the door closed. I mean, that's not how quite they said it, but it's the truth.
So parrots turn out to be very labor-intensive in some way.
Oh, my God, yes.
Okay.
And they mourn if you're not there. And if you die or something, because they often will outlive a human being, certain species.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, they can go totally morose.
Oh, yeah.
Or they'll start picking their feathers out like an insane person. It's really sad. Oh, I know what I was going to say before. I remember there was on one of these cooking shows, and it was one of the famous Mario Batali or Jamie Oliver or one of those people. And they did a whole story on how supermarkets and restaurants toss out food. Now, we're not talking about things that have been cooked and are going to spoil and they can't sell them as fresh. But just if they have blemishes or bruises, millions of pounds of food that is perfectly good.
Why don't they give it to a food bank?
Well,
that's unbelievable.
You said it, Queen. But yeah, that's it. We're not talking about spoiled things, just things that are maybe a little bit overripe. But they showed you just mounds and mounds because no one will buy it, from what you said about the fancy waxy food. Looking like a Christmas tree ornament.
We're so screwed up.
It's very funny. I mentioned my mother once this morning, but I just thought another story about her was, I remember this was some years ago, but I was already an adult, and we were talking about gifts and Christmas. And I remember my mother, growing up during the Depression and working class, poor, and just saying, and she would say once, oh, yeah, for Christmas we'd get an apple or some nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That would always make me so sort of teary, But I mean, she came through it, and she was a lovely person and had a good life. But just thinking like, oh my God, we just forget about that.
But do you? I think when you're in, she maybe didn't feel deprived.
No, I'm sure she probably didn't.
No.
Well,
if
maybe
she got
a
an
little
apple,
bit.
an apple was a treat. An apple was a special thing.
I suppose. But you think about nowadays.
Well,
now we have these bodacious apples.
we're just.
But it just was, I guess, to think that Like an apple. Well, but maybe that's
You know
a
what I
ridiculous
say?
thing.
What I'm saying is that we've
we've
it's we who
bloated
are.
things. Yeah, and unless you have 700 fire trucks and Legos and laser beam guns, the kids aren't.
Yeah, it's all. We know too much, but we're so in it, we don't know how to get it.
But also the other part of it was the apple. It wasn't just, about overspending, but that people weren't eating very much because of the depression. So that tells you.
Nutritionally, it tells you something. Right. All right. Can I say something here
about... Of course you may.
Well, this is an unpleasant subject, but I was reading this. What? We have a caller? Hello? Hello, caller?
Hello.
Hi. Oh, Mr. Clarence.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It's nothing important. He was just talking about his mother telling the story how she got an apple for Christmas.
Right.
The first thing that popped in my head was, kids are excited to get apples these days. They just happen to be iPhones and iPads.
Touche.
There it is. That's
Brilliant.
The perfect line. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I just thought of the difference between the two.
True.
Yeah,
You're
it was exciting to get an apple for Christmas, except it was an apple.
Right.
Now kids are excited to get an apple for Christmas. They're iPhones and iPads and iPods.
Now, you could call up or send an email to Rob Rogers, and we were telling you how he does the two sides of the cartoon.
Yeah, that'd be a good
one. And to have
one.
Christmas 1923 with an apple, and brilliant observation.
Well, this is, you don't know it, but Clarence here is a cartoonist.
Oh.
And
Oh, my God, well, then you have to do it, Clarence.
Well, I'm no Rob Rogers.
Well,
I'm not
that's beside the
published or
point.
anything, so Rob could steal it, and I won't sue him.
Well, doesn't he? It's either he or some other known cartoonist who, if you send them, it's a New Yorker. If you send the New Yorker an idea
and they use
for a cartoon and they use it, you get $50.
Oh, big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'd rather do it for free. Let Rob Rogers do it and make more money off of it.
Yeah, well, that's true, too.
It's good.
Get me an apple for Christmas.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Good one, Clarence.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
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 That was cute.
Yeah, he's a very clever, funny, unusual person. Clarence in Canonsburg. He's been calling the show for decades, and
really sounds like a very young man.
Well, he's very young he's young. He's younger than me.
Well, but decades.
No. I bet Clarence is in his Clarence in his 50s.
Oh, it sounded like
Clarence, are you in your 50s yet or late 40s? Oh, now I'm in trouble. You can Clarence, are you he'll turn out to be 32 or something.
Yeah.
No,
but then he couldn't be calling for decades. That's when you said decades, I thought. But
okay, so I turn now to one of the more sour-looking human beings on the face of this earth.
Robert Bork.
No, he was not a sour-looking person.
Oh, yes, he was. He was porcelain.
No, but that's not. No, it's not mean. He was not mean-looking. He was ugly. That's different.
Well, that's true. That's
different.
True.
He was ugly.
That's like they always say years ago about women. Oh, but she has a lovely personality.
I know.
No, I think he was evil. I always thought of him as evil.
Okay, well,
and he had that sort of barking voice.
Okay, well then I'll stop this and we'll have to do my Robert Bork story.
Oh,
the people know because I have told this before.
Okay.
Robert Bork, who now is dead, and I want to tell you that I warned him
that he was going to die. Well, of course he was. That wasn't. You weren't exactly a Cirrus.
But I told him what he was going to die of, and I was right.
Oh my. You have a psychic part of you?
No.
Oh.
He was overweight.
Oh, okay.
And he was chain smoking cigarettes.
Oh, right.
And I said, "What are you doing? You're trying to kill yourself. You're so brilliant. You don't know that what you're doing. You're killing yourself."
Now, how did you have this opportunity to opine to a potential Supreme Court nominee?
Well, it was obviously after that. I see that the Supreme Court thing all happened in 1987.
I was trying to remember when I came in, just how long ago it was.
That's when it was, and my recollection is of being with him in the studio at WTAE Radio, where he spent an hour with me. He had a book out, and that would have been probably about 3 years after, 3 years after his he became a household word. And certainly I thought of him as like this horrible person. But I had an opportunity to get him live on the show. I'm not going to turn that down. So in he comes. And this is one of the stories I tell about when you make assumptions about people, right? Like you say he's mean, he's this, he's that.
Exactly.
He was the most charming person. And, I got to know that more during commercial breaks. You go to a commercial and then you start talking.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, which is very often these are public people, like when I was saying about Clinton being on.
Yeah.
These are public people. I mean, someone said the same thing to me about Gingrich. Well, I won't tell the story to get off your flow, but the fact of when he was public, he had to be this Republican, but afterwards he was a bright guy and smart, and I'm sure the same thing for Bork, but when he needed to rhetorically be who he was.
No, it's just that his views were, they just seemed like out of the Middle Ages. He was one of these. Yeah. He was one of these people who would, in fact, argue against much of the Civil Rights Act because he would see it as, an infringement on business owners to serve who they want and landlords to... He was so conservative to the point of, just being reactionary that I found him frightening. But the man was charming, delightful, funny. We had such a good time. Yeah. And I told him, he knew he was on some liberal talk. Right. And he was so nice and easy, but he was, and this is in the days, obviously, before we banned smoking everywhere. And you could smoke. Smoke during an interview. And he was chain smoking, and I was surprised to see how heavy he was. I remember
he was a big man, but I don't remember him being fat.
He was. I think he got
probably
fat
in the post.
But he's a most unattractive physically human being. He just is. But so anyway, I was when I was liking him, I didn't like to see that he was engaged in this slow suicide.
Yeah, sure.
So I did say something to him, and he grew up in Ben Avon.
Oh, really? Oh,
He's a Pittsburgh boy.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
And that's why he was here.
I don't know if that's why he was here or not. I don't know.
How old was he? I didn't do that.
85. He was 85. But, so his name goes into the lexicon as a verb.
Yeah, I remember that.
Borked,
I was reading.
Right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
To be borked, which sounds...
Well, was that the first time in sort of modern times that someone was so viciously kicked out? Wow, we have many.
Who knows? But I'm sure that happens.
That was nothing compared to Anita Hill. What's his name got in, but those... Well,
the most recent person who was borked before she was even nominated is Susan Rice.
Yeah, but not like Clarence Thomas, that trial. Those hearings. He got in, but what he went through.
Well, he should have.
Well, no, but I know, but Anita Hill, that was like a whole...
No, I don't think that's...
No, I'm saying, no, not that it wasn't right, but that we had such a public laundering with such graphic detail.
Disgusting.
Anyway,
so Bork, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, yes.
I think a good soul with a very strange idea about...
ideology.
Things. I don't know.
He would support the Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now maybe since you're such a wise person about political things, or if you don't, maybe someone else will tell us, how difficult is it to remove an amendment? Can one?
Oh, yes, yes, you could.
I know when you want to put one in, but I don't know about taking one off.
No, they can be taken off, but I would imagine...
Oh, yeah, all the
I would imagine
have to
taking
ratify.
one... No, I would imagine taking one off is the same as putting one on.
And then what? It has to be 2/3 of the states have to ratify? Because I remember the ERA thing.
Is it 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states?
Something.
It's something. Years. It's a high.
No, it made me think about. Obviously, as many people because of the killings of those children. But this notion, it was a very interesting piece in the Times about our nation, being violent, and this going back to the notion of the Second Amendment. And what this writer, and I can't remember who it was, said that perhaps democracy came too soon to America. And you know how we say nowadays that, like with the Arab Spring,
they're not ready.
They're not ready. And in a sense, were we? Because at that point, his point was that at that point, many communities, there were only so many states to start out with, and most of them were northeastern. Many of the communities didn't really have police forces. So this notion to be the right to bear arms was perhaps needed at the time. But now, look what it's become.
Well, I think
and I think he said that no other democratic nation, or maybe no other nation even, has in its constitution this idea of the right to bear arms, which you think nowadays, why would you, and forget about all you people shooting deer up in Erie, and I'm not against that. But, why would you have a gun? Why would you? Because you probably shoot your foot off, or that little kid whose father was shopping the gun, I think it was somewhere here in the Pennsylvania area, and he went off in the car and the kid was killed. Why would you need to have a gun?
Well,
to maintain, why do we have a police force? That's what they do. That's what the Army does. We don't need to have guns.
Well, look, there'll be no taking guns away from Americans. That is not going to happen. And people should be able, I think, to. There was nothing wrong because when they wrote that, it made perfect sense.
But we could say blacks were not human beings.
When
Women
they wrote
didn't have
that, when they wrote that, it made perfect sense. There were no. What was a gun? A gun was a musket, a single loading musket. Okay, if
but things morph.
Yeah, right. Okay, so
morph.
it's not this.
It's not inalienable. However you pronounce
inalienable.
It. Inalienable, right. When you think about it, the right for free speech, the right to bear arms. That's such a discontinuity.
Stop and think about who's writing that and when they're writing it.
Sure, fair enough.
Seriously,
fair enough.
If they did not have guns, could they have taken on the British and the king?
Or could have thrown the Indians off their lands.
Whatever,
No, all right, fair enough. But I'm just saying that when people say, the Constitution and those people were so brilliant, in some ways, I completely agree with that, but in some ways, it's like many kosher laws were not there for some mystical thing. It's because shellfish and all these things made you ill. It was about dairy and it was about dietary things that were smart. And now you don't have to worry about that. Although very conservative people of faith where they have dietary things was like, no, you have to. It was situational.
Are you done with your rant?
What do you mean done? The Queen of Rant is telling me, am I done?
I can't get a word in edgewise.
Well,
Jeez.
Now you know what the other side feels like. Go on.
I'm never even going to get to this. I'm holding in my hand the first topic I had wanted to bring up. Okay?
Do it.
Wait. It's 22 minutes. The show is 1/3 over. I have not even...
Well, please. I am just your humble handmaiden. Just read the damn thing.
I'm not going to read it. I'm going to refer to it.
Refer to it. All right.
Yes. I was saying, if you'll recall, about 20 minutes ago, that one of the
you brought up apples. So shut up.
That's true. That one of the nastiest, I think, meanest looking people whose writing is mean to is Charles Krauthammer.
Oh, yes.
He just looks like somebody who's so angry all the time that
if you had a name like Krauthammer, you probably could be too.
Krauthammer. There's just, he just, what a miserable looking soul.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him. No, I don't. His writing, I completely agree.
No. He's just, and he looks like a man that if he were to smile, he might be nice looking.
Right.
It's not like he has he doesn't have the misfortune of, just sort of
growths on his face.
He doesn't have the misfortune of being ugly
but
Robert Bork.
Yeah, but he's stern to the point of right.
It's the look is his inner ugliness radiates from his face.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so he was on Fox yesterday, and he was beside himself. Because the president, in talking about the fiscal cliff at his happened to bring up, look, I think the country in the wake of these horrible, we've endured Sandy, we endured now this, horrific, unbelievable, unspeakable thing, and I think they would like us to, can we now focus on, so he says, sacrilegious! That's what he said.
Yeah,
sacrilegious. What an outrage. Yes, so here's part of the thing. You can't speak about it because it's a little uncomfortable for the Republicans. So they pretend,
it's loaded.
They pretend to instead be pious and concerned, of course, with the dead.
Yes,
yes.
Right. I can see them all with handkerchiefs sitting
yes,
there.
And to those of us who want to talk about, and how did they die?
Exactly.
No, we can't. But listen to this. He says of the president, I think this is so funny, he is excessively self-righteous. He said self-righteously. He talks about the other side, that would be them, as being unprincipled. Yeah. Do we agree with that? Yes. Not interested in the national interest. Yeah. Slaves of an ideology, which he says makes no sense. Yeah. And invested in opposing him to the point where they'll be willing to let the country suffer. Krauthammer, I got to tell you, this is not a mean statement. This is a statement where I absolutely agree that is what the president is saying. And in fact, oh my God, Clarence is 49. Well, I was close. I said 50s, didn't I?
You said 40s or 50s.
I said 50s, and then I dropped back into 40s. But, I mean, it's so funny. He's in this state of high dudgeon and saying and I actually agree with Krauthammer. Yes, the president probably does think you're unprincipled, not interested in the national interest, slaves of an ideology that makes no sense, and invested in trying to thwart him even if the country suffers. I would say that Krauthammer has it absolutely right.
That's right.
What's funny is that he's suggesting that none of this is true.
And that they wouldn't use those killings or some such other unpleasantness to work towards their...
like Benghazi.
Yes, right, exactly.
When the 4 people were killed in Benghazi, they didn't wait until... the blood hadn't clotted before, Romney, I almost forgot his name. I almost said Dole. Boy, how quickly... How quickly... Yes, Clarence, that's true. Clarence is 49. He's a very young 49. And PJ has written...
that's in a sense what politicians do. But on the other side of it is the fact of when do they know when the country sort of has had enough? That, even if one's a Republican... look at all these former... Most of them Republicans, I believe, and very much NRA enthusiasts are sort of stepping back and saying, whoa. Because it's a human, when you're touched in a way... I don't know.
Well, PJ's got it right in regard to the apple thing.
Okay.
He said, regarding an apple for Christmas, as with all things, more is often less. Less is more.
Usually the apple.
Yeah, it's the opposite. No, it's less is more, I think is what you wanted to say.
Well, this is a poem, isn't it?
I don't know. Anyway, he says, we cannot appreciate things unless there is an absence of them. Agree. We need to try and treat all things as sacraments. It keeps us in the moment. Something very Eastern about it, but it's so hard to do. Mm-hmm. No, less is more, not more is less.
Yes.
Less is more. And this brings me to
No, but I see what he's saying.
Oh, more is often less. Right. But so we can... But this idea that you cannot appreciate something unless there's an abstinence, it's one of the reasons I love, people who run off to sunny California or Florida or, the Southwest, for the weather. I can't bear the thought of the weather always being the same.
The same, right.
I mean,
agree.
there's nothing more wonderful than the
change
transition
of seasons. Yes, right.
seasons. And so this brings me to something that occurred to me yesterday. There's a lot of people in the world, Tom, I hate to tell you, who think the world's ending tomorrow.
Oh, yes, right, exactly.
The Mayan thing.
I'm taking a plane, but then I figured, if the world's going to end, I might as well
what difference does it make?
Be closer to heaven.
Yeah, right. So here's what I was thinking. I don't know. I'm driving in my car, and I'm thinking, the world's going to end on Friday. If the world really were going to end...
Don't pay your Comcast bill.
What would I do? What would I do? Seriously, the world is going to end in 2 hours.
Right.
Where do you want to be? What do you want to do?
Yeah, sure.
And think about that.
Well, I've thought about this a little bit. If I was in a situation, not the world ending because that's so bizarre, but let's say you have a very serious illness. And it's sort of like, you will be, comatose in 6 months, and maybe you'll be in a coma. And you'll be in coma for X times. What would you like to achieve? Because this happens to many.
Well, that's that bucket list thing, right? Hey, wait. We got to take a call.
Go ahead and finish the story, Tom.
Okay, finish.
Well, no, and the point being, the one experience you'd like to have before you die. And, here are these people, I want to go down the Nile, or I want to... And I've always thought that just intensifies the peculiarity of the moment. Whereas if you just say, I enjoy my life. And I just like to be on Lynn Cullen show on Thursday mornings. And if all of a sudden I was in Krakow painting Christmas ornaments, it would just be, I'm not here. This is my life.
Okay, so you would like to keep things as normal as possible.
Now, if I had a hideous job and a snaggletooth wife or something, I might want to leave that. But if your life is really fine, enjoy it because that's what
you're
are.
About to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, caller, hi.
Hello, it's Michael from Palm Springs, and let me start with, there you go again, trashing the Southwest.
Oh, me, yes.
Speaking he who lives in
that's
Lotus
what got
Land.
you to call, right? No,
because
but
I am in Palm Springs, and that's how I started calling in when she started trashing Palm Springs.
Listen. You have a change of season. It goes from, highs
to
and
hot.
No, it goes from pleasant to unbearable. That's what it goes to.
Yes. And also within driving minutes of playing in the snow, if I so desire, or rolling in fallen leaves, and then coming back home.
Where can you go into falling leaves in California?
Up in Idlewild.
I was going to say falling cactus needles.
No, there are huge, giant mountains here with forests up on top.
I know, and I've gone up the mountain in Palm Springs where you start and it's 95 degrees at the base, and you get up to the top and it's 22.
What's the name of that mountain?
Exactly, and so you have the change of seasons. Within driving distance.
Right, all you got to do is get on that
what is the name
funicular.
Of the mountain?
What's the name of the big mountain there?
San Jacinto.
Yeah, San Jacinto. Right.
Or that's not the mountain I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that the tram is on, and then the further one is Big Bear.
Right. So, it's a lovely place. I'm just saying, I prefer the traditional 4 seasons of the temperate zone.
I know what you meant, and I just had to get a little dig
All
in.
Right. God forbid we don't hear from you enough. I am mean.
Hey, I did get it down to once a day.
Okay, you. Yeah,
Have a good
at
holiday.
least. Okay, bye, Michael.
Bye.
Well, now, what would you, going back to this thing, what would you do?
Well, here's what I decided, and I decided this within 1 block. From stop sign to stop sign, I realized what I would want.
Oh, that was your moment.
I was sitting in
God's
the car.
light went zero.
So what would you want? And it just occurred to me very quickly. What is it that I love the most? And one thing I know I would have to do immediately is get out of a building and get into nature.
Oh.
Because if the world's going to end, it's not just us. It's this glory. It's the trees and the birds birds and the.
But it could just be your backyard. It wouldn't have to be.
No,
the
it
Grand
could be my
Canyon.
backyard. I could just, and I was thinking, so I would want to be breathing the outdoors air and hearing birds and looking at trees and insects and all that kind of stuff. And I would want the other thing that is so glorious is music. So I would want wonderful music to be playing, and I would want to be eating wonderful food.
It sounds like an LSD trip.
And
Timothy Leary's being your butler.
You think of all the things that give you pleasure.
No, right,
I
exactly,
would want this pleasure, pleasure. And,
which doesn't have to be Brobdingnagian pleasure. I mean, it could just be a nice picnic. It doesn't have to be foie gras.
No, I'm not saying I would be. No, I would want, if I'm never going to have it again, food.
Like your last meal in a prison.
Right, exactly right. But definitely nature, and definitely nature and music. So that's and like you, I wouldn't want to travel somewhere. I'd want to be what felt like home, comfortable.
Yeah, because of course, if you've never seen the Grand Canyon or the Taj Mahal, that would be lovely, certainly. But that would be such a intrusion in a funny way into your real life.
Well, it would be it's disorienting.
Well, and it would just
like,
stress the fact the only reason you're doing it is because you're going to die. Or the world's going to end, or whatever.
But I guess it would depend on people. Some people might take great pleasure in seeing then things that they had not seen. Why? I'm trying to get to one more email here, guys. I have to take a break? Oh, dear God, I do. Let's take a break. Even if the world is going to end, we have to take a break. Thank you.
Oh, this looks like
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Discover the most beautiful you with smoother, brighter, and healthier skin. Sewickley Med Spa is now offering special holiday skincare packages for all skin types, including anti-aging, anti-blemish, and sun damage treatments. Not sure what to buy that special someone? Purchase a $100 gift certificate and receive an extra $10 free. Log on to SewickleyMedSpa.com for details. Sewickley Med Spa is conveniently located in downtown Sewickley at 435 Broad Street. Happy holidays from Sewickley Med Spa.
Go to BurkeBargains.com for great deals on your favorite local restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 65% on tickets to the Pittsburgh Symphony's Holiday Pops. BurkeBargains.com, Pittsburgh's exclusive e-commerce mall. BurkeBargains.com.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
And who is PJ?
Okay, hang on. Okay, recent poll taken just a few days ago by CNN, some other people said 53% of Americans say the Republicans are too extreme. And that is up 17 percentage points since 2 years ago.
The last time this question was asked.
So, well, I don't know.
Or some variant.
Well, whatever. But 2 years ago would be probably after, midterm elections or something to that effect. And that, in fact, 2 years ago is when they took such huge control
of the House.
So, Americans see them as, recalcitrant, of not compromising. And Americans said only 37% said Democrats are too extreme. So over half of Americans think Republicans are too extreme. A third think Democrats are too extreme. And I don't know why the Republicans aren't able to see the writing on the wall here and how they keep just putting themselves in a corner. I'm looking at here again, Representative Jim Jordan, Republican, Ohio, influential conservative leader, said this in a statement. It is clear that criminals will always find ways to acquire weapons and use them. Passing more restrictions on law-abiding citizens will not deter this type of crime. So this is the mantra. They come out and say it as if any effort, and they always say, oh, someone will always, any effort to rein in the insanity, they say it doesn't make any difference. However, all these guys, they're putting out statements, but they're refusing to be interviewed. They don't want you to ask that question. They don't want the follow-up question. And then he said he would not be interviewed. His aides told whoever the reporter here is, he will not be interviewed because now is the time to mourn.
Well, then why bring it up?
There will be plenty of time to have this conversation later. This is from their game plan. This is how they do it and always have. The thing that they don't understand is we're on to them now.
Yeah.
And the other thing they do is distract. So rather than dealing with guns, now we have to deal with video games, and we have to deal with autism. And we have to deal with mental illness. And
well, it's interesting.
Anything but
the
most obvious thing that has to be dealt with, which is that we're a nation drowning in guns. And I think this point was brought up, maybe Potter brought it up the other day, that while gun sales keep going up, gun ownership is going down. In other words...
So it means the people who collect them have 20.
That's right.
Yeah.
The people who are buying all these guns are people that already have.
Well, Mrs. Lanza supposedly had 15
4.
No,
she had 4.
More. Okay.
I don't think so. 20.
But
it's
whoppers.
Not unusual. So that is what the people who are out there running on the gun stores now are people who already have tons of guns. Now, that
Someone
in
said
some
to
ways...
me last night, maybe what they should do, because this would be a kind of Republican segue or sashaying around, is make illegal the sale of bullets.
No, that's been brought up before.
Yeah. Oh, that has.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only make them not necessarily illegal, but you make them very hard
expensive,
to
like
get,
$100,
or very expensive.
Well, you remember not so long ago when they were, and I think they did outlaw them. These bullets, and I can't remember the name of them.
Cop killer bullets.
Yeah, that sort of exploded in your body.
They tried to.
They didn't. Oh,
no,
wow, I thought they did.
Because the NRA and their minions stopped it.
Yes.
It didn't even
so
matter
if
the
cop killer bullet to kill a deer. If that's why the guns are really being
And here's another
purchased.
Intelligent remark by another Republican. We all had our cap pistols when I was growing up, and that didn't seem to cause mass murders in the street.
I never had a cap pistol.
Oh, I did. Oh, I love the smell of them. I love the smell of the gunpowder.
Oh, thank you, Annie Oakley. Annie Oakley, the Jewish Annie Oakley of Wisconsin.
We had cap pistols.
Well, I didn't.
Anyway, but what is that? That is the silliest thing I've ever heard. And then here...
So people play guns and robbers, too, and that doesn't make them into...
And here's another one, Congressman Coble of Republican. I think it's more of a mental health problem than a gun problem. And Senator Casey, we have 2 senators that are pro-gun.
Yeah, I know.
And Casey has now, even Casey, see, the Democrats at least are now saying, oh, well, I will favor a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition clips. Well, thanks a lot. So it's a start.
Because, for example, they'll say, oh, yes, well, sure, you could, if you had a volume of the OED, you could beat some old lady to death with it because it's so big. But like those Chinese, that rampage that went on that the Republicans have been quoting, yeah, a lot of kids were stabbed, but no one died. Mm-hmm. Or a baseball bat, yeah, you whack someone's head with a concussion, but maybe just one kid. I mean,
you cannot create the havoc with any other that you can with these assault weapons,
of course
which are unnecessary for anything other than just killing lots of people.
Well,
That's
or
what they're
warfare.
Made for.
I mean, yeah,
that's what they're made for. So I don't see how the Republicans have a leg to stand on here, and I would like this to be something that we do not let up on.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I think maybe the American people are thinking that too. So any efforts to stonewall this, to stall it,
right.
You can't let them wear.
But
us
what's interesting
down.
about this is that wasn't wonder. Listen to stupid Krauthammer, but. Does this get woven into the fiscal cliff? Well, I'll give you this if you know.
No, I don't know.
Oh, I think they'll do anything.
Oh, Dorothea says, if you believe these people, the world's going to end sometime during my show tomorrow. So Dorothea says, and I plan to be right here listening to you as everything comes crashing. Thank you. The last voice you'll hear is the dulcet tones of Lynn Cullen.
Oy vey smear. I'm thinking of, did you ever see the play?
Thanks, Dorothea.
Tony Kushner's Angels in America?
Sure.
Well, the first act, and those of your listeners who have seen it, ends with, and it's a very long play, and that's followed by a second half, which is another 3 hours. But the ceiling of the room, this hospital room of this patient who is ill with AIDS, comes crashing open, and this huge angel comes down, sort of saying, something is to come. And then the curtain comes down. And I could just see you. I thought of you being this avatar of the end of the world flying in. And God.
Did you hear a sound effect there?
Yeah.
Was it?
I took care of it. I clicked on something accidentally. I made it so I didn't get
Oh, I thought you were actually looking to make a crashing sound, which would be quite okay. Yeah. I thought, oh, wow, Jess is getting into the sound effects you can do.
Yes.
Okay.
All those Mayans, I tell you.
Okay, there's an increase in sales of armored backpacks for children in America. And, see, it's that kind of thing. This kind of thing that Americans are stark raving nuts. You do not, that is insane. It's also giving your children the wrong idea, making them feel insecure. It is absurd, but it's just amazing. There's a picture in the Post-Gazette today of the CEO of the company that makes these backpacks, and he's kneeling on one knee, and he's aiming a gun at a backpack, and he's shooting it to show that if somebody comes up behind your kid with a gun and he shoots them in the back, that they'll be protected. This is insane.
What happens, my old wise one, if someone shoots from the front?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's. at least a flak jacket goes all the way around you. But my God, I can understand. But again, it's that whole notion of buy them flak jackets, buy them these impenetrable backpacks, but don't take away the guns.
Exactly.
Have a security guard walk your kids to and from school. Have armored cars, etc. But don't take away guns. It's just the forest for the trees.
Somebody said, well, what are we going to do even if we ban certain things? There's already 500 gazillion million of them floating all around the country. What are we going to do with those? Well, yeah, granted, that's we have let this become a huge problem, which in some ways is what the NRA wants. It's so big that you can't get a handle on it anymore. But I want to get back to something here. Caller, go ahead though.
How you doing, Lynn?
Hi, fine, thank you.
You know what? I'm all for banning all these guns and that, but I guarantee if you ban all these guns, you're still going to have the same murders happening because there are so many guns out there already.
Well, that's what I was just saying.
It's like a worthless cause, but you got to do it.
No, you do have to do it. That's what I was saying. So you ban these assault weapons, and yes, they'll still be there, the ones that are out there already. But you do have things like a buyback program where you literally give people a good hunk of change to turn these things in, and then you destroy them. You buy back and destroy as many, and you could a good national buyback would get millions and millions of these things off the street.
That sounds like a good idea.
It is a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate the call. Australia did this, and they were able to buy back 1/5
of the guns
that they had out there. And since they did that and did some reasonable gun control, they have not had a mass shooting in, I think it's 14 years.
Yeah, right.
We, as we know, have a mass shooting
Every 3 months.
Oh, no, it's more than that. A mass shooting is anything over 4. That's how the FBI categorizes it.
Okay.
We have them constantly. And to continue, and we become inured to it.
Yeah, exactly.
The only reason we're talking about this again, is that this time all these
We're so little.
children,
Animated, yeah.
all these little sweet children went.
Well, I remember.
And that's the only reason.
Yeah, no, it makes it far more
And
grotesque,
if
especially
we
in this
do
holiday
not,
time.
if we do not do
yeah.
something now, then we are. I would.
Well, it says we become so jaded.
No,
and
we're just
so-
despicable if we don't
Yeah,
do anything
yeah.
now. If we say it's too big, well, we can't do it because what about this? Because what about that? You know, time for all the negativity to end and start moving toward trying to get control of this. And a huge buyback program is a good start, and preventing any of these ammo clips.
Right.
So unless all these people who've done the runs on the ammunition clips and stuff, yes, they'll still be out there, but you'll just hope that they are not the lunatics, although they're exhibiting some lunatic behavior, but they're not mass murderers.
Right.
And you'll hope that
it's
they
that
won't
question-
fall into the wrong hands.
Well, it's that notion of you can just save one. Isn't that worth it?
Do you know
could
that
save one life?
Yeah.
It wasn't that worth it? Not sure. We'd love to save 1 million lives, but if you could save one or those
Well, there's
20 children,
there's a Jewish saying: "He who saves one life saves the world."
Yes, right, exactly. Yeah.
No, is it?
Well, you know, it's funny you talk about the buyback. I remember there was a guy in Pittsburgh who was about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe more, and who approached me when I was at the museum because he wanted to do this, and he was, as I remember, going to put up the money because he was a sort of wealthy guy in the area, and then he wanted to create a sculpture out of these guns, you know, solder them together or something. And we talked about this, and then I forgot why it fell through, but.
Here is a great quote or thought from Russ. Ask a Republican this. 3 people are in front of you. One has mental illness, one has a video game, and the third has a gun. Which, pointing at you, which problem would you like to take care of first?
The mouths of babes. No, I mean, that is
so
clear.
True.
So clear, and like, duh. As
so we've
kids
got
would
to
say.
stop being, polite.
Yes.
And just call this what it is. I mean, this is a national crisis, and there clearly now we've gotten to the point where I think by far most Americans want to start getting a handle on what the NRA has done to us.
Right. Well, I was listening yesterday or the day before to an interview on NPR with a fellow from Scotland who was from this town, Dunhagen.
Well, they had a terrible
in 96. And he talked about, the problem wasn't as bad back then, certainly as it is here, or then and now, but that how from that moment all throughout the British Isles, it just made the numbers go down. People responded as we hope they will here. And it shows you what they could do. And
we are let down we're let down by our political leaders in all these other countries.
But let me go back to what I said earlier, which is the business that this thing in the New York Times about the Second Amendment, the way this country was created, like a man can have his gun, and I think that is deep in our, even if we're not gun lovers.
I agree.
And because we have that, and I think also because guns in parts like Montana and that, where people shoot more in terms of game or part of farming.
That's fine. That's not what we're talking about.
I know, but I think when you have that in your system, it's harder to get rid of than if you're in Lancashire.
But that is the assumption is that you do not make distinctions between what the NRA has muddied everything.
Of course.
You make distinctions.
Of course.
Hunting, all of that. Defense of yourself with a gun, blah, 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 fine. But these weapons of mass destruction, there's no way that anyone should have them.
Well, I remember the most interesting thing when I went to London for a summer once. Oh, this was, 20 years ago or more. Anyway, I was shocked because I was staying in someone's house and there was a problem with the burglar alarm and the police came, et cetera, et cetera. the police in Britain don't carry guns.
No, I know they don't.
I mean, and that just shocked me. Like, they have marauders and they have terrorists.
That's right.
They don't carry guns.
No.
They
and in
that's
fact,
just civilization
fewer British police officers are killed in the line of duty than Americans. We're insane. We are just flat out effing insane. I got to take a break.
On top of that, you can't get
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
Happy holidays from Pittsburgh City Paper.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
You too.
Hello! Welcome back.
Oh, fun.
This was in the Wall Street Journal today to change subject. There's something called a never event, and that's what in surgery is described as something that absolutely never should happen in surgery. That there's no excuse for it.
Yes.
There's no way. And never events are, like leaving sponges in your body, operating on the wrong place, doing the wrong procedure.
Right.
Guess how someone did a survey, Johns Hopkins, of just how much this does happen. They figured that these numbers are real, actually. Not
projections, but actual numbers.
No.
Oh.
They say this is probably the tip of the iceberg because a lot of this stuff is never reported.
Oh, sure.
So they're trying to get a handle on it. They say never events in surgery probably minimally 4,000 times a year. 4,000 a year. And this is leaving the biggest one. 50% of them are leaving something behind in the person's body and still sewing
there's always
them up.
That business of counting sponges and whatever.
Which is why they're never events. You are never, ever supposed to do it. Now, some surgical places have these wands. Everything's got like something embedded in it. So after you make sure that there's nothing beeping inside the person, whatever. The thing is that a lot of people might be walking around with these
we're a package of hot dogs.
Things in their bodies that are never
that can become an irritant.
It can create terrible trouble, requiring additional surgery. But not all items that are sewed up inside a person are discovered. So some people end up living with these things. They think as many as 1/3 of all sponges left in people will never, ever be discovered. But one quarter of these things is the surgeon operated on the wrong place.
Well, I know I've had these finger surgeries.
They mark them.
He actually makes a line.
I know.
And then signs his
So
name.
why does this happen?
Yeah.
So why does this happen? And then get this: a quarter of the time, they do the wrong procedure. You go in for you go in to have a gallbladder removed, and they take your tonsils. I don't know.
I have to talk about my family. My father would always make the joke. And now, this is not to offend anyone in the medical profession, mind you. I have many good friends who are doctors, but my father would say, when a butcher makes a mistake, he makes ground beef. When a doctor makes a mistake, they bury you. But you know what's interesting about this? I have a friend who was operated on, and it was a very bad accident in a motorcycle, and he had to have plates put in his leg. Well, it turns out that these titanium plates that they put in which were made in China, were not, and although they come, like in a vacuum bag or something, had infectious material on them.
Yeah.
And then his leg, he may have to have part of his leg amputated. And you think,
Yeah, we like to think, and it's like whistling past the graveyard. We like to think that when we go into a hospital that, of course, everything's going to be fine, nothing, And this is why I think it's just so mind-boggling when people agree to elective surgery that is unnecessary, for to make you pretty or whatever. And I'm thinking, are you out of your mind? That is the stupidest thing.
Well, that's it. I mean, I understand we can't control germs. They're infinitesimally small, etc. But when these MRSA and what's this other one, C-gap?
I don't know.
But they're increasingly having more and more. It's very funny. I went to a conference, and it was called Positive Deviance. And I thought, I have to go to this conference. It sounded so weird. But basically what it was about, thinking outside the box, and you'll find the solutions. But anyway, they gave us we went to these various experiences where in this poor community, one was in Guatemala. Anyway, one was at a veterans hospital in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. And the issue this woman was talking about is the really up and down usage by medical professionals, doctors, paramedics, blah, 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 of putting on gloves and gowns when they needed to go into a patient's room. And her suggestion was, well, now we put the gloves and the gowns right at the doorpost. So it's not like, we have to look, where are the gloves, And I put my hand up and I said, this doesn't sound like, an out-of-the-box solution. It sounds like, almost verging on malpractice. So then I was speaking to another friend who's in the medical profession, and she was saying that, well, all right, you put but then people don't take off the gloves. So they'll go and they're talking at the nurse's station, leaning with their hand on the desk or on the lintel, and it's not like they have some schmutz on their hands. No one sees it, so the next person comes and they're leaning on the wall with their hand, and you think,
See, but none of this should be tolerated.
No, of course not.
None of this should be tolerated.
Especially when you're paying $1 zillion to have your nose fixed or whatever, and then you're going to get some infection which will be eating your flesh for the rest of your life. I mean, it's not funny, but it is. I mean, when your car has a better treatment in the dirty old auto repair shop than in a hospital where everyone's wearing a hairnet.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Yes,
Allow
you are.
me at least one diatribe.
I did.
To your 7.
I did. I didn't say a thing, but you are done.
Yes, I know. We're
out of time.
Post-quem has come.
And I have to call my mom and see how bad
if she snowed in.
Well, I'm sure she snowed in. She expected to be with 16 inches.
Jeez, that's a lot.
But that's not,
Unheard of in that part of Wisconsin?
Oh, unheard of. It's nothing. It's not much of anything.
That's a foot and something. That's a lot.
Well, I know it's the same amount of inches, but I'm saying that's not an unusual event. So, and she said, I'm sure they'll have things cleared out and I'll be able to walk again on Friday. But I don't know about that.
Well,
I think
at least here it's supposed to warm up again right after.
I don't know.
But who knows up there? She's much farther north.
Yeah. Anyway, the fact is a lot of people are going to be, this storm, whatever it is going to screw up a lot of holiday travel for people because people are starting to travel for Christmas.
Well, I am tomorrow afternoon. So.
Well, I hope you don't.
Well, they said here an inch, and I'm going east.
No, you'll be okay. I would imagine. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Tom. Happy Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
See you in the New Year.
I'll see you in the New Year.
To Babylon. And I don't mean the city of the Old Testament.
And on to Babylon.
Yes.
And tomorrow I've got a fascinating guest, I think. I'm still immersed in her book.
Oh, is this the
It's called
person?
Pardon Me While I Clear My Throat. It is the strangest book.
This is the one about the screams.
About the human voice and
on the voice.
screams
Okay.
and stuff. It's fascinating, yeah, I think. And I'd be stunned if she won't be a good...
Will she scream? You have to ask her to scream.
I don't know. Okay. Hey, Tom, thanks a million as usual, and see you tomorrow, guys.
She's the one that won this.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.